The opinions expressed on this program represent the viewpoints of individual authors or contributors and do not necessarily reflect those of Troy University. This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, we're very fortunate tonight to have as our guest a nice young lady running for Attorney General of Alabama. She's not that young, but she's pretty young compared to me. She is working this state like crazy. She is probably the most qualified person to run for Attorney General in years. Pamela Casey has been the District Attorney of Blount County for 15 years. She's a native of Blount County, and she's done an excellent job there. She's actually a prosecutor, which is what the job of Attorney General is. And she's crisscrossing the state. I've been looking forward to having her on our show, and we thank Pamela for taking time to be with us today. Thanks, Pamela.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I've been looking forward to it.
Pamela, you were born and raised in Blount, weren't you?
Born in Blount County. Actually, I was born in the Boaz Albertville Hospital, but grew up in Sneed. So they take you across the line to
Marshall County, yeah.
Marshall County, and grew up in Sneed Crossroads. Lived there my whole life, and before I went off to college.
Pamela, you know, going back to how old I am, I served in the legislature and in politics when everybody ran as a Democrat, even if you were a Republican. And all of us ran as Democrats. Shelby did, and I got to be good friends with a guy named Bob Harvey, who was from Blount County. He sat right in front of me. I loved old Bob.
His grandson is now chairman of the commission, Bradley.
Okay. Well, he and I were good friends, and he was exactly like us. He was running as a Democrat, but then he retired, and I started writing this column. And he invited me up to speak to the Blount County Republican thing. I said, well, Bob, you like everybody else, you've changed parties, haven't you? He said, yeah. He was like a hardcore Republican.
Oh, absolutely.
By that time. But you know what? What I was getting around to saying is your area of the state, when I was growing up, that whole North Alabama, north of Birmingham, everybody was Democrat.
That's right.
They really may not have been real Democrats, but they ran as Democrats. But you're young enough that you could always run as a Republican.
That's right.
And there's not any more Republican area in the country than Blount, Marshall, Coleman. You border Coleman too, don't you?
We do, and actually one of the most in the actual country in terms of county, that and Winston County, some of those counties vote 80-90% Republican.
I know.
And so I ran as a Republican in 2010. That's the party I identify with my values, and have run as a Republican. I ran in 10, 16, and 22, and now again in 26. So
go back now to your first race. You went off to college somewhere out of state, did you? Law school?
I did. I went to Rhodes College in Memphis.
Well, that shows you're smart then. Old Southwestern, was it called Southwestern?
Southwestern at Memphis, then they changed.
But Rhodes is academically one of the best schools in the South.
It is, and it was a great school. I enjoyed it. I always say that's some of the best time of my life was being there. Enjoyed the school, enjoyed the people.
What did you major in at Rhodes?
Political science.
Yeah, makes sense, yeah. So then you went to law school and came back home.
I did. I went out to Seattle, and people said, why would you go out there? Well, I worked my way through school, and they had some scholarship money for me, and I had to go where they would help pay. And so, but as soon as I finished taking the bar in Washington State, I got in the car and drove home. So I'm actually licensed in Washington State and
Alabama. Still because of that. But now, your first job in Alabama was in the Attorney General's office, wasn't it?
It was. I worked with
Assistant Attorney General.
Assistant Attorney General in the Capital Litigation and Violent Crimes Divisions under Attorney General Troy King. So I started there in 2007 and was there until I took office as DA in 2011.
So were you working in Attorney General's office and you ran for DA?
I was. So I was doing a lot of driving back and forth. Would be at events at night and be at work the next day. I remember the day I got elected, that Tuesday night of the runoff. That next morning, Wednesday, I was down here at the AG's office back at work. People said, why are you still here?
They thought you took office immediately.
I said, oh no, I got bills to pay. I got 6 more months before I take office.
Pam, what about going back to that 2010 race? How old were you then?
I ran when I was 28.
28. There's no age limit on it.
No age limit. And everybody said, Blount County hadn't elected a female.
Well, did you run against somebody? Or?
I did. I ran against the sitting DA, the former DA, and an ADA. So there were 4 of us in that race. and I was 28, and they told me, first of all, they told me they wouldn't elect a female, and then they told me I was too young, and then I actually had a little lady tell me one night that I couldn't get elected because I was single. And we came out of that primary in first, went into a runoff, and won that. I think it was 56 to 44. And then was reelected in 2016, 65 to 35.
You had an opponent in 16.
Had an opponent again, and won every box in the county.
In 16, and you ran again in 2022?
Unopposed. Those are the best
yeah.
elections, aren't they?
The 22, so you don't come up for your job at Blount County to 28 again.
That's right. That's right.
Now, y'all are is the attorney general, as the DAs and attorney general, are they in the same retirement system as the judges?
No, so DAs.
Y'all regular state employees.
Well, no, any DA who came in after 2016 is. I'm actually in the old supernumerary system. Actually, I could retire in November
Under that system.
Under that system, but I still want to serve.
It was like 3 terms or something. It wasn't based on your age. It was
right.
3 terms or something.
And I get to count my AG's time toward that 18 years.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, a lot of probate judges have come out of are in that old system like that. But now you're married to a Blount County boy?
I am an Aniana guy. So if you're a Susan Moore graduate or an Aniana graduate, that's a big rivalry there. And when I was pregnant with my first child and they found out it was a boy, there was a big discussion about whether he was going to play football at Susan Moore or would he play football at Aniana. They were already calling dibs. My husband's a big old guy, and they thought, well, we need us a big ball player. So
I think he's going to be big.
Yes, he is 6 years old. He's wearing a size 10, 12, 72 pounds. He looks like a linebacker, but
is he playing ball?
We play flag. He's doing the flag football just to kind of get the knowledge. Plays basketball and baseball. And I actually coached basketball rec league this last.
Did you play basketball in high school?
I did. Played AAU ball in the summers, and actually was going to play in college. Decided to run track instead.
I didn't realize you walked in a while ago how tall you were.
Well,
you're about 5'10", aren't you?
5'8", 5'9". So
yeah. My daughters are tall. My daughters are 5'10" and 6 feet tall.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
Or 5'11".
Did they play ball?
They didn't. They were athletic. One of them's a lawyer like you in Birmingham, and one's a stay-at-home mom. Both of them live in Birmingham, but they're 5'11" or 6 feet.
I enjoyed it. I always wanted to make sure I married a tall guy since I was taller.
Is he as tall as you?
He's 6'4", 6'5".
Oh, okay, you did marry a big guy
Yeah.
then.
So my dad was shorter. My dad came up to my shoulders. So my dad was shorter, and I always said, had he been tall, I would have been over 6 foot. But so I've got a little boy that's a big guy, and then I've got a little girl that's taken after my dad's side of the family. Is real tiny and petite. So.
Pamela, y'all are making some little camaraderie. All y'all running for statewide office.
I am enjoying it. We call it the circuit, and we're getting to see and meet each other. And I keep kidding everyone, Christina and Derek, and a lot of them, that we're going to have a get together at my house when this is all over. We're going to put everybody's stump speech in a bowl, and then we'll
y'all know each other's speech.
Yeah, we can take it out and we'll see. Kind of like a roast. We can.
You can give the other one a speech.
That's right.
Because they give the same one, don't they?
And that bothered me at first. Like probably the second or third time I went to speak, I thought, well, a few of these people have already heard me speak. I need to change. And then somebody told me, it's like, stick to your message. It doesn't matter if 1 or 2 people hears it 2 or 3 times.
No.
So now it's just we all kind of know what's going to go. We know kind of what order we like to go in terms of speaking. But I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed meeting the people. I love getting to meet the people of Alabama and hear what their concerns are. I'm a people person, and that's why I'm running.
I've always said this, and I told Derek this. Derek and I are good buddies. I said, Derek, you'll look back on this experience of running statewide. You learn so much about this state, and you learn the nuances of it. You learn how pretty one area of the state is, or vice versa. And we're such a diverse state.
Oh, I've enjoyed it. An attorney in town told me when I started, he said, you need to keep a journal. Writing.
Exactly.
And more than anything, so your children can kind of learn. And one thing I wish I had done is we forget how beautiful this state is.
That's exactly what I was saying.
And I wish I had brought my nice camera with me and taken photos from time to time to put together kind of a coffee book. Because the old churches and the sunsets and the beaches, and I mean the town areas, the downtown city, more metro areas. I just sometimes drive by and amazed at how beautiful it is, and it's our state.
You know, I say that too, and I told another candidate this. I've never run statewide, but I have. When I first started writing my column 20 years ago, I would get out, because I'm in almost every paper in the state and in every area, and I got out and I went to visit every newspaper. I guess first 5 or 6 years, and it was such a great experience. So I guess I toured the state, not the extent you and the other candidates are, but I would go to the newspaper and maybe speak to a civic club or something in conjunction with it. But I grew up in this area of the state, in Montgomery and Troy, and I love my area because it's home. But to me, this is not the prettiest part of Alabama. We got flat land and pine trees. When you get up towards your area of the state, especially northeast of you, and that DeKalb, Jackson County area,
Gorgeous.
Chiaha, in the fall of the year, I tell candidates, especially the ones who are from the southern part of the state, I say if you're working on your schedule, I would schedule to be up there in that tri-county area, just north of Blunt. Blunt's probably pretty in the fall, but just north of you, because I love the foliage. The foliage up there. I told Steve Livingston that over the years, he and I have been friends, and you came to that 4th of July thing, the Ledbetter's thing, in Livingston. But I'd go up there and visit with him and his dad. He's got a 90-year-old daddy who practices law.
What? Really?
Named Jack. He'll practice law up there in Scottsboro. But I said, there's a road coming down off there from Stevenson up in the northern part of your county. I was driving down that road. I was visiting. There was a little paper up in Stevenson. I was visiting Scottsboro Daily Sentinel and coming down that mountain. I said, I've been to Asheville, North Carolina in the fall of the year, and Chattanooga. I know people talk about that being pretty, but there's no prettier place in the state
Oh, absolutely.
than that area. And you'll be able to pick up dialects.
Oh, yes.
From different areas.
From different areas.
Did you do that before you got to travel in the state?
Well, yes, and see, I had lived in Seattle, back when I lived in Seattle and came home, they'd say, you're not from around here, and I thought, well, everybody up there thought I had a southern accent. But yes, you can tell, and you can kind of tell when people have lived here for a long time. You know when you're talking to somebody in the state, if they've just moved to the state, just from the different dialects and different accents that they get.
You know, I've said this in my column, and I think I'm accurate saying that you probably got the most perfect background to be Attorney General, because all it is a state's district attorney. And you have been a practicing district attorney for 15 years. You've tried every kind of case, haven't you?
I have. I've tried every case in my circuit since I've been DA except for 2. And
now, what other counties in your circuit besides Blunt?
Just Blunt.
Okay.
Just Blunt. So we used to be with St. Clair, and then we broke. But yeah, I've tried capital murder, I've tried rape, I've tried child sex crimes, theft cases, drug cases. I average 47 years on my murder cases. I have multiple people doing life without parole. I have people who are doing hundreds of years for perpetrating crimes against children. And I think that's what really matters. That AG's office is your top law enforcement official for the state of Alabama. And you need someone who's been there working side by side with law enforcement the whole career. I tell people I'm not a career politician. They say, well, Pamela, you've been in office most of your career. I'm a career prosecutor.
Oh, yeah.
And truly believe that's what I was put here on earth to do.
And I think people realize that you're not a politician as a DA. They think of you as a prosecutor. But do you have any staff as a DA in Blount County? Do you have assistant?
We do. So I currently have a full-time, 2 part-time, well, a contract and a part-time, and I have a young man that's about to come out of law school, and he'll join us. So we'll have 2 full-time, 1 contract, and then we have about 10 other staff members, including law enforcement, on our staff. So
how big is the staff of the Attorney General's office?
I think about 185 to 200. So
I mean, not all lawyers, though.
No. So you're going to have different.
How many lawyers over there?
When I was there was a little over 100. So there. So great staff. When I worked there, I enjoyed working there, working with the people. Still friends, still very good friends with people that I worked with back 15 years ago.
Pamela, you know, this would be interesting for you to know. I ought to invite you to have lunch with us one day at the Bright Star. I occasionally, once every 3 or 4 months, will have Bill Baxley.
Oh, awesome.
He was probably, in my opinion, by far the best Attorney General the state's ever had.
Well, I had somebody tell me not too long ago, I reminded them of Bill Baxley.
He was a genuine, he was a young prosecutor.
He was.
Now,
I think
his daddy was circuit judge in Houston County. So Baxley, I think Baxley's modest about this. I said, Baxley, you got a photographic memory. Oh, I really don't. But he did. And he would look at a case and he could memorize facts. But he was so smart, he skipped a grade at Dothan High School. You can talk to, you go in Houston County next, aren't you?
I am tomorrow, I'll be there tomorrow.
When you go to Houston County, tell them that you talk about Baxley. His brother Wade was as good, was one of the top lawyers in Dothan. But Baxley's daddy was Keena Baxley. He was a circuit judge. They only had one circuit judge, and they got two. Forrest Adams became a circuit judge with him. But anyway, Baxley grew up in his daddy's courtroom there in Dothan, and he skipped his grade in Dothan High School. He finished high school at 16, finished undergraduate school at Alabama at 18 or 19. He was practicing law while he was 21 years old.
Oh, wow.
He was DA before he was 25.
Oh, absolutely, because he's the only one that's beat me. I would have been the youngest DA. So when we were trying to figure that out when I got elected, we determined he had beat me by just a few years. But then he was Attorney General.
2 terms.
Right. But before he was 30, he was Attorney General.
He
and
was
I think
28. He has a record for the history, not just of Alabama, but the country. And he made Time magazine.
Oh, wow.
As being like the rising star, and he did a lot of. Reason I thought about Baxley is he put in the most unbelievable staff of assistant attorney generals. He brought Myron Thompson in.
Oh, right.
He broke the race barrier. Circuit judge here, Charles Price.
Yes.
Charles
Judge
Price, and he put. I mean, you go down the list. It was like all kind of Hank Cadell. He did environmental law, but Baxter was a great prosecutor. We've had some great history of attorney generals.
Absolutely, and I think some of our best attorney generals have been those who've served in the position of DA, who get it, know what it's about, and understand what the priorities of the office should be.
Well, Marshall was a DA.
Absolutely, and you just learn so much about the public, about public safety, about protecting our families, protecting our kids when you're in that DA's office, and you're responsible to the people. So I've already been responsible to the people of Blount County for almost 3 terms. And that goes to show that they have put their trust in me to take care of them and to do what's right. It's not easy to do what's right every time. And it doesn't mean that I'm always going to do the right thing, but I'm going to do what I believe is right in the situation.
Speaking of that, Blount County is a small. What's the population of Blount County?
About 70,000.
See, that's what people don't realize, is people in South Alabama don't realize how much population there is more in North Alabama.
Absolutely.
For example, the best example would be Aniana, probably the same size as Troy, if not smaller.
Oh, it's smaller.
Troy's got
smaller.
20,000 people, but my whole Pike County ain't got but 30.
Right.
In the whole county. Whereas Marshall County, Albertville might be 18,000.
Right.
But their county is 81,000.
Right.
Your county is 70,000 people.
That's right. That's right. So.
But it's still small enough you know people.
I do. It's interesting, I handle my jury cases and jury selection, and it's always, that's one of my favorite times is when we get our jury pool.
Picking the jury pool.
Seeing who all I know and who
You'll
I'm
know
familiar
went to high school with them.
I did. A lot of people played ball against them, or my husband did. And so it's a small community, but still large. We're, right there near Birmingham, but not too far from Huntsville. And so, I think the people in North Alabama are aware of the work I've been doing for the last 15 years. They've seen the work we've done, and I think that's what they want for their next Attorney General.
Well, I've heard a lot of good things about your race, because I was riding with a guy who I sometimes don't like to drive downtown in Birmingham, and I'll get an Uber driver to drive me to some event or something. And I was riding with him, and he's been active in Republican politics on the periphery. He's some in the music business too, Coleman. And I got somehow that race came up. He says, "What races are running this year, Steve?" I said, "Well, these." He said, "Well, you know who I like in the Attorney General's race? That DA of Blount County, Pamela Casey. He already knew about your race."
Right. Well, we have done a lot of big cases, and we've done a lot in the 15 years I've been there, and we've had a really good relationship with the news and with AL.com, running and letting the people know what we're doing. And I think that they know that that's what my heart is. It's protecting people and working hard.
I think you are. You got a good reputation. You've been a good DA, and I think your experience in the Attorney General's office, because you're familiar with the office.
I did capital litigation. That's important. We've had 22, 23 executions since Governor Ivey has been in office. And so I think that your Attorney General should have actually tried a capital murder case. If you're going to be over essentially a capital lit for our entire state, that execution portion and death penalty stuff and appeals, you should have been there and done that.
Exactly.
So,
That's the best thing. Because, you think about that. You grew up as a DA and RDA, and I keep hating to harp back to Baxley, but I sat with Baxley for several. He gave me all kind of information. Me and Matt MacArthur and Dean Buttram. You know Dean Buttram over in Cherokee County. Anyway, we sat with Baxley. He told us all kinds of stories. But I remember working for Baxley when I was a young person in the Attorney General's office, and I watched him talk about different things. But Baxley really was real progressive for that era. He was hiring the top black lawyers in the state, which was unprecedented. Also, he was prosecuting a lot of those Klansmen. He was going out and prosecuting the Klansmen who bombed that 16th Street Baptist Church. So he was looked upon as a progressive, especially on the race issue, and he was a liberal progressive for Alabama standards. But so you would think he was against the death penalty. But anybody who's been a DA, Baxley was considered liberal, but he was the most ardent death penalty advocate that you've ever seen. And I asked him one day, I said, Baxley, why are you so much for the death penalty? He says, if you're ever a district attorney, those criminals are not stupid about, and I tell you, the best example he had said, what happened was, I had this criminal who had obviously robbed a 7-Eleven, and he could have killed the person, but didn't. I said, why didn't you kill it? Oh man, Baxley, I'd gotten the death penalty for that.
Well, and
They
that's
know.
deterrent.
It's a deterrent.
It's a deterrent, and that's what we need, And another thing is, like, I've stood with those victims' families when they've had the most horrific thing. We sometimes need to remind people in the state that victims don't choose to be a part of our system.
No.
You usually don't meet the DA until something bad happens in your life. And so when you've met those families that's had a family member taken so just horrific violence, that's when you have a belief in the death penalty, I think. And that's one thing. Growing up, I initially thought I might be a defense attorney and clerk for a judge. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I told him, I said, I don't ever want to see an innocent man go to prison. He said, then you need to be a prosecutor. He said, you'll have more control over those cases versus a defense attorney. You only get a few. And then when you go to bed and go to sleep at night that you put away people who are guilty. And that totally changed my perspective. And I am all about making sure that the guilty are held accountable, but I also don't want to see an innocent man go to prison for something he didn't do. And so standing with victims and just having that belief is why I have a strong belief in the death penalty.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Every DA I've ever talked to, whether they consider liberal or conservative, have been for the death penalty because what you just said is a deterrent. That's what Baxley said. It's a deterrent.
Right.
They know. I ain't going to kill this person because I'm going to get the death penalty.
That's right. That's right.
Pamela, what about talking about that? Baxley would actually go to court sometimes as Attorney General. Do you perceive you go into court a lot on not just the high-profile cases? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, I have no problem walking. And that's one thing we need to think about. Can your Attorney General walk into the courtroom, try a case if needed, something happened? Let's say the state government shuts down, okay, and you can only pay constitutional officers. Then you've got an AG that can go and handle a criminal case or any type of case if they need to. I know that General Marshall tried a capital case down in the Wiregrass area, and I absolutely have interest in trying cases while I'm still AG. Of course, that wouldn't be my priority, but I believe that's something that I would want to do because I have created relationships with some families of people who have cases pending currently across the state who said, I hope you get in, it'll take my case. So, I really do want to have that working be a working AG just like I'm a working DA. I want to be in the courtroom. Again, that wouldn't be a priority, all the time. But I could see myself trying capital cases or helping other DAs when they need assistance.
Mm-hmm. Pamela, one thing too I'm noticing is with your experience and knowledge and knowing the DAs around the state and a lot of the law enforcement people, I think you're getting an inordinate number of endorsements from the DAs and law enforcement, aren't you?
We will, and we'll announce those in the coming weeks.
Okay. What law enforcement, were the sheriffs endorsing that race?
The Sheriff's Association will not endorse. They are all up for election at this
That's
time.
right, yeah.
So, but we'll have several DAs and mayors and police chiefs and coroners across the state who will announce their endorsement in the coming weeks.
Because of your experience.
That's right. They've worked with me. They understand. We'll have some retired ABI guys, retired troopers that come forward and say, look, I've worked with her. You won't find anybody that'll work harder for you as law enforcement or for the victim's family.
What about the vocal people?
Oh, I was chairman of the vocal board.
Have you?
At the state board, and Shelley down in the Wiregrass has already come out and
What
endorsed
about
me.
Darlene?
Yeah, Darlene's is definitely a supporter.
Who took over for Miriam over there?
Wanda Miller did.
That's
and so
right,
Wanda
yeah.
was in Birmingham and Jefferson County. And so she and I have a really good relationship. I'm actually still on the board. I stay active. You know, I have been a part of Vocal for almost 20 years, like almost my whole career. When I was trying cases in the AG's office, they were showing up in Decatur and showing up in Chilton County and different counties where I was trying cases, you know, and you would always know that they had your back. Like regardless, you had someone there with your victim and that were there to support you. So you know, Vocal does so much for this state
They
and for
really do
victims.
with what little money they have.
Absolutely. And Miriam and Darlene and all those wonderful ladies actually came to my swearing in 2010 in Blount County.
Did they?
They did. Miriam was a very dear friend of mine.
She was one of my dearest friends too. You know, I sponsored one of the first vocal bills.
Really?
When I was in the House, when she first started doing that, after her daughter was murdered, Quinette, and I was her representative. Clive was in my district. I handled the Victims of Crime bill that was, I got their award, I got on my wall. I was the first vocal award winner because I sponsored the bill, let the victims of the crime be in the courtroom.
Absolutely, and people don't realize that. Used to be they could not
I passed
even
that
be.
law.
And it used to be that defense attorneys got 2 strikes for every strike that the state got.
Yeah, I was involved with those first things. Miriam did that free gratis.
And here's
she
the
wasn't
thing.
getting paid a thing to do
And
this.
what a warrior. You know, her daughter, and she turned that into something that, you know, really leaves a legacy. And we see that with Anaya Blanchard's case, that her mother has really gotten in there and made sure that Anaya's loss of life wasn't for naught, that she's going to change lives and save people's lives in the future.
Well, Pamela, I appreciate you taking time to be with us. Our time's up. It goes by in a hurry, doesn't it?
Enjoyed it.
Folks, our guest tonight has been Pamela Casey, who's the district attorney of Blount County, has been for 15 years, and she is a very qualified and active candidate for Attorney General of Alabama. That race is on the ballot this May of 2026, and the races have begun, and we thank Pamela Casey for being with us tonight, and thank you viewers for watching. Hope you tune again next week for Alabama Politics. Thank y'all.
This has been Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, a production of Troy University Television. Opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Troy University, its administration, faculty, staff, or students.